I haven't made one of these in a while. Not since the Tekken Kazuya video, I think. Yeah, which is a shame because I like responding to your guys' comments. It's cool. You get to talk back and forth. It creates community and all that. Now, a bit of obvious information. If you haven't seen the original video, what the fuck are you doing here? Go watch the original video and come back. This is all a response to that video and the comments in that video. You're not gonna have any fucking idea what I'm talking about. Come on, man. That's obvious. Now, don't be scared and thinking this whole video is just me constantly defending myself and shitting on the comments section about all the arguments they were giving forth. I'm not really interested in that. I'm going to defend myself in this video for sure, but I was wrong in quite a few areas, and your comments revealed that information to me, and I will be going over the times I was wrong as well. This isn't going to be me bitching and moaning for who knows how long this video is going to end up being. Now, if you're not interested in the entire video, I put timestamps down below. YouTube likes to get a bad case of the stupids, and then when I put it down below to make the little timestamps, sometimes they just don't appear in the video. It's very random of whether or not it wants to appear. So if it's not there, just check the description. It'll be there. Just click on it and it'll take you to the section of the video you want to go to. And last point before we get started, as always, my videos are completely unscripted and uncensored. So if I forget some points, that's definitely possible because this shit's just all coming off the top of my head of what I can remember from the comment section. Feels like a conversation between me and you guys. All right, so that's enough of an intro. Let's get started. So first up, we have the lamb. Apparently, you guys thought that there were some things I got wrong about the lamb, so let's talk about it now. First thing people had a problem with is the fact that I was talking about the lamb as if he was just pure evil and you can't play the game as a good guy. People have it in their mind that the lamb can be played as a benevolent cult leader or a malevolent cult leader, and bullshit. That's not true at all. I don't know why people keep saying this. This is something that the game never once advertised. The game did not say that you could ever be a benevolent cult leader. The creators of the game never came out and said, oh yeah, you could be benevolent or whatever. It's not any of the advertisements. It's nowhere to be found because it's not possible. Literally every single side quest, the main plot, the new game plus, every item that you want to unlock, all of it requires you to do super fucked up shit that you can't avoid doing unless you just choose to not play the game. Midas' side quest requires you to sacrifice people and turn them into gold. Zozo's side quest has you drugging an entire group of people in order to manipulate them into being loyal to you. Shadow Fox side quest has you not only sacrificing people, but also sacrificing your father figure and mentor. I mean, hell, after you beat the bishops and the one who waits at the end of the game, you're told that the bishops aren't actually dead and their souls are still roaming the lands and like poisoning it and corrupting it and killing people and all kinds of crazy shit. And in order to enter their lands and put them down for good, you have to sacrifice like 20 fucking people. If you want to access and use any of the DLC, it all requires you to do evil shit. The Blood Moon DLC has you absorbing souls and locking them into a book, souls of innocent people and old followers who died in the past. The Sins of the Flesh DLC have you tempting all of your followers to sin so that you can absorb their sin, and in the game when they sin too much they get dragged to hell. You are knowingly damning their souls to infinite hellfire just by engaging with the DLC. The only way to play through this game and be like a benevolent cult leader like you think you are is to basically just not engage with any of its systems. You have to go through the whole game, not play through any side quests, don't do a new game plus at all, just delete your file. You might as well, because after that point you have to do evil shit just to continue the game. And even if you do all of that, the main plot of the game that you can't avoid no matter what is the fact that you're indoctrinating innocent people. Indoctrination means against their will. You can't willingly indoctrinate people. It is inherently a form of manipulation. To serve a death god who you know wants to kill all of them at the end of the game, and you're lying to them about this in order to save your own skin as well as get revenge on the bishops for trying to kill you. Absolute best case scenario, you play less than half the game's content and you are still a manipulative, opportunistic sociopath. Congratulations. I mean, fuck, you can't even go to Helob's shop and buy new followers because then you'd be engaging in the slave trade. Like, it's literally built into every single system of the game. It was fans of the game after the game released that people started talking about you being able to be a benevolent cult leader. That was never one of the selling points of the game. The whole point of the game is to be as evil as humanly possible. It's kind of like the whole Ratchet and Clank challenge that people were doing, where they were saying, like, can you beat the Ratchet and Clank games without using any guns, just using the wrench? And yes, they found out, yes, you you can do it. That doesn't mean that canonically Ratchet doesn't use guns just because you decided to play the game that way. You're just choosing to play the game in a way that it wasn't intended. So yes, the Lamb is an evil, vicious fucking monster, and there's really no defense for him not being a bad guy, even if you don't play half the game, which all has you doing evil shit. Alright, next point for the Lamb is the one who waits isn't that big. Some of the comments, I think 2 of the comments, said that I was lying when I said that the one who waits was bigger than a mountain range. This image right here. And they were saying that that was in a trailer, and in the game he never actually grows that big, so you can't count it. And I'm just gonna clear this up right now real quick. I consider anything that is released by the official sources, the developer, the director, whoever, anything that they release, I'm considering canon until it is said not to be canon or contradicts the game in some way. Massive Monster, the developer of Cult of the Lamb, released like 10 or 12 different animated shorts just for entertainment. Sometimes they're given as sort of like trailers, but sometimes they're just for fun, and they're just sort of these fun little animated shorts. In one of the animated shorts, we see Narinder being this big. Narinder is the real name of the one who waits. I have no reason to believe that he can't grow to this height, especially considering that in the game, he does transform and grow bigger. When you actually fight the boss fight at the end of the game, he's like, I don't know how tall he is, 9 feet, something like that. He's pretty tall, but he's not like huge. And then he transforms, and then his head is like the size of a fucking house. So he can get bigger. We've seen that he has that power. We just never see him in the game become this big. But we do see him get this big in the official animations released by Massive Monster. So yeah, I'm counting it. I literally have no reason not to. Alright, last argument made for the Lamb. His indoctrination is not nearly as strong in the game as I made it seem in my video. And basically the evidence they had from this is that dissenters in the game is a thing. Once you indoctrinate someone, if you like just leave them be and let them starve or let their faith get too low or whatever, the indoctrination wears off and they start to dissent from the cult. And they were using this as a point to support the claim that the indoctrination just isn't really that strong and can be resisted. The problem I have with this is how indoctrination is used within the game. The Lamb can literally indoctrinate any character that he has any social interaction with throughout the entire game. If he attempts to indoctrinate someone, he succeeds. He can even do it to the god level characters like Narinder or the bishops. While it's true that if you just ignore them for long periods of time, they can start dissenting and want to leave the cult. That only actually happens if you let them starve, like basically to death for several days, or completely abandon the cult for a really long time and they just never see you again. And as soon as they start dissenting, you can just go and re-indoctrinate them and it's right back to normal. And I think the confusion that people are having here is that they don't really understand that it's not mind control, it's indoctrination. The Lamb does not like jump inside your head and just control your thoughts and mind like that. That's not really how it works. It's not Professor Xavier mind control. It's indoctrination, like religious indoctrination, political indoctrination, like propaganda that dictators do to their populace to trick them into believing they're gods or something. Indoctrination alters someone's beliefs and principles over the course of many, many, many years to get them to believe and support a certain belief system. The thing that makes the Lamb so powerful is that he can do this indoctrination in a second. With the flick of a switch, a character can undergo years or even decades worth of indoctrination in like literally a split second. Yes, absolutely, someone can fight against that indoctrination and grow and learn from it based on certain things that happen in their life. That's true, but they have to go against their own belief systems. It's essentially a form of inception where they have to fight against themselves, not the mind control. And if they do start coming to the realization that it's all bullshit, he can just indoctrinate them again. So absolutely, yes, the indoctrination is really fucking powerful. The Lamb doesn't have to control your mind. You control yourself because your belief system is guiding you towards that particular point. You have to fight against your own belief system. That on top of the fact that once you're indoctrinated and join the cult, there are constant like propaganda speakers going on and everyone around you shames you for like going against the beliefs of the cult. It's a very strong form of indoctrination that happens in the blink of an eye. That's a pretty fucking powerful thing. One argument was made that if someone's willpower was high enough, they should be able to go against the indoctrination. I mean, I don't really like this argument in general because generally speaking, mind control cannot be resisted by willpower. In certain things it can, like anime and the Marvel and DC comics, it's pretty commonly known that with enough willpower you can fight against mind control. But that's not the case for the vast majority of fictional universes. If I'm rewiring how your brain works and fucking with nerve endings and like literally altering your thoughts, no amount of willpower is gonna fight against that. Like, can your willpower fight against Alzheimer's? No. The whole willpower fighting against it is generally bullshit in most universes. But let's say for one second that that willpower was capable of fighting against the indoctrination. Okay, fine. I mean, it's not a terrible argument. The characters who are going through the survival challenge would have to show that they have a certain level of willpower to fight against that level of indoctrination. And really, none of them do. Some of the characters like Hollow Knight and even a little bit Issac do have resistances to certain forms of mind control. And I mentioned that in the last video that they will most likely not get indoctrinated. But for characters like the Castle Crashers and Skul and stuff like that, who at no point in their entire game are they ever victim of any sort of mind manipulation, there's no reason to think that they have enough willpower to fight against it. They still have to show that level of willpower in their own game. I'm not just going to assume it because they are the main characters of their game. One person in the comments even said that all the people that you indoctrinate in Cult of the Lamb have weak wills. Does the one who waits, the previous god of death, have a weak will? Does Shamura, the god of war, have a weak will? Based on what? They both get indoctrinated at the end of the game. People getting controlled is not an anti-feat for their willpower. Because again, a lot of fictions don't have willpower as a factor when it comes to mental manipulation. It is a feat for the lamb, not an anti-feat for the one who waits. One argument I thought was kind of stupid is when someone told me that you can't indoctrinate all the enemies of the game as you're fighting them. You can only indoctrinate certain characters. So only those characters are susceptible to being indoctrinated. And yeah, this is dumb. How would the game even work if you were capable of indoctrinating literally every enemy throughout the whole game? It would be fucking broken. You would just walk up, press square, and every single person you run into would be indoctrinated. You'd have an army of like 10,000 in the first 2 hours you played the game. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, hell, once you get like 50 or 60 followers at your camp, the whole game starts lagging and freezing on you because they just can't fit that many people on screen at a time. This is very much so a game mechanic situation. All right, I think that's it for the lamb arguments. Next up is going to be Skul, and this is going to be a really fast one because I only really saw one consistent argument when it came to this character. And that argument is the Grim Reaper Skull. So I explained in the previous video that Skul has access to a bunch of different super overpowered, mythical skulls that have all kinds of different crazy abilities. And he swaps out these skulls to have different powers at different points. And I said, yes, he gets all the skulls. Well, a lot of people were saying, why didn't you bring up the Reaper Skull, which basically allows you to stop time and then just blitz and murder everybody before they even have a chance to react? That would help him in the Lands of the Old Faith. And yeah, you're right, it would. Against the cultists, the Lamb and other higher up tiered characters also have the power to freeze time. That would completely negate the Grim Reaper Skull if they're both just in frozen time fighting each other normally. He's not gonna get the benefits of the time freeze. Honestly, I don't even know why that was really the only argument that I saw for the Grim Reaper Skull, because I don't even think that's its best power. It also has the ability to make cuts into dimensions and open up portals to the Nether Realm, as well as steal the souls from all the people it kills, and for every soul it steals, it gets more powerful. Those two, to me, seem far more useful. Yeah, overall, it's a really powerful skull, but it's just not enough. The fact that he has this wide assortment of powers across all of the different skulls he can use doesn't matter if he can't use all the skulls at the same time. He can only use one. So it severely limits his potential and just overall limits him and gives him a smaller variety of abilities by which he can use. What I said in the original video is that Skul would do very well against the lower tier characters, but he would probably eventually get indoctrinated by the higher tier one. They would see his usefulness, and I don't think that they would kill him. His power is just too cool. Look, I'm not even gonna lie, Skul is probably my favorite character to go to the Lands of the Old Faith. I think it would be the most interesting. Not only does he just aesthetically match the environment, like he's a little cute skull creature fighting all these other little cute, crazy, cannibalistic cultists, but his personality, belief systems, and power set make it so that there would just be a lot of really cool, interesting stories that can go down with him being on this island. But before I made the video, I did go over the entire list of skulls that he has and look to try and find which one would be able to have him overcome the island. And he doesn't have any. He has a ton of skulls that allows him to just slaughter through cultists, but none that allow him to fight the top tiers of the island. So re-reminding me of the existence of the Reaper Skull does not change my opinion on whether or not he would be able to survive. Sorry, not sorry. All right, up next is Shovel Knight, and much like Skul, there was really only one argument. And it was basically that Shovel Knight had a DLC where he fought against Kratos and beat him, so he should scale to the ridiculous overpowered power of Kratos, the God of War, from God of War 3. And both Cory Barlog, the creator of God of War 2018 and God of War 2, as well as the creator of Shovel Knight, said that this is canon to both universes. So my point against this would be Cory Barlog does not give a fuck about continuity. I've made a video about this before. The Norse games completely shit on and rewrite everything that happened in the Greek games. They're not compatible at all. The Norse God of War games are essentially a reboot of the franchise, just taking little bits of what happened in the Greek games, but altering those events events to match whatever they want it to in the Norse games. If you can't tell, I'm not a fan of the Norse games of God of War, which is crazy because the Greek games are like some of my favorite games of all time. But yeah, no, he doesn't care. The fight between Kratos and Shovel Knight is supposed to happen after God of War 3 when he leaves Greece on his way to go to the Norse realm to go fuck with Odin and Thor and shit. But that's not fucking possible. It doesn't fit into the continuity of the story that Cory Barlog wrote. For one, during the fight between Shovel Knight and Kratos, Kratos has all of his equipment and magic that he had in God of War 3. He loses all that shit at the end of God of War 3. He loses all of his magic, his items, his weapons, everything. In that fight, he is wielding the Blades of Exile. The Blades of Exile were destroyed at the end of God of War 3. How does he have all this stuff? This is stated again in God of War Ragnarok when Kratos says that after the events of God of War 3, he lost all his magic. All of his items that he kept lost their magic properties as well. The only thing he had was the Blades of Chaos, which, by the way, doesn't have any explanation to why he has the magic in those. So how the hell does he have all this shit with his fight with Shovel Knight if this is supposed to take place after God of War 3? Also, this is an important factor. We already know what happened after God of War 3. They released a canon comic book covering it. He leaves Greece, he goes to Egypt for a bit, then he leaves and goes directly to, the lands of Norse mythology. That comic book does not have any major time skips. We see what happens. At no point does he ever go to the Shovel Knight world. And even if none of this was the case, Shovel Knight does not have near the level of power to face God of War in a one-on-one fight, certainly not able to beat him. Kratos by the end of God of War 3 is superior to infinite speed and infinite strength. His power is enough to wipe out gods who defeated beings who created and destroyed universes. He's on a totally different level than someone like Shovel Knight who can't even survive like a building collapsing on his head. At absolute best, this is an outlier. We really just need to look at this how it is. A really cool crossover that both creators of both franchises came out and said were canon because they knew it would get fans all excited. But God of War and Shovel Knight are not writing their games in a way that pays any attention to the other franchises. They are not a part of the same continuity. They can't be. They conflict with the continuity. Next up is Cuphead. And this one wasn't really an argument, but people were just wondering why I didn't mention Miss Chalice in the video. Like, why didn't I bring her to the island as well? Well, I didn't actually bring in Mugman either. It was only Cuphead. I did mention Mugman once, but just to say that even if Mugman was there, it wouldn't really change the outcome all that much. But that's really it. And if I added Miss Chalice to it, it'd say the same thing. Even with Mugman, Chalice, and Cuphead all there, it still wouldn't really change the outcome all that much. Cuphead, Mugman, and Miss Chalice are all physically powerful enough to take on most of the people on the island, even the bishops. They are not physically strong enough to take on the lamb. However, they don't have any resistance to the majority of the hacks that any of the god level beings have. There's nothing like mind control in Cuphead. And I know I just got finished saying that the lamb doesn't actually do mind control, he does indoctrination, but Shimura does do mind control. He's shown to just tell people to try to kill other people and they just listen to him. It's like mind control. I mean, really, if he wanted to, he could just say Cuphead, Mugman, and Miss Chalice just kill each other and they'll all just try to kill each other. I mean, the entire plot of the game is about Cuphead trying to stop the devil from stealing his soul. Just by that, we know that Cuphead can get his soul stolen. So any of the higher level characters can just do that the moment they see him. Unlike the devil from Cuphead, he doesn't have to sign a contract in order for them to do that. They can just do it. And the fact that the entire threat of the game in Cuphead is that he was going to lose his soul to the devil means it could happen. He isn't shown to have any resistance to it. And adding Mugman and Miss Chalice to the situation doesn't change that. They would just all get their souls sucked, as opposed to just, one. Oh, and I'm a fucking liar. Yeah, there was an argument that was made. So basically, the devil, because he's the devil, should be more powerful, and Cuphead should be able to take on the gods of the old faith because he beat the devil, and the devil's the devil. The reason why that argument sounds absolutely ridiculous is because they didn't give any fucking points as to why him being the devil would mean that he would beat the gods of the old faith. Maybe they were saying that my main argument was coming from him beating Glumstone, who's the size of a mountain, and they were saying like the devil is stronger than Glumstone, so why did I spend so much time on talking about Glumstone and scaling him to Glumstone? I agree. The devil is more powerful than Glumstone. However, Glumstone has a very clear power level that we could go off of. The devil doesn't. We know the devil is stronger than Glumstone. Fine, fair enough. But he doesn't have any like massive feats of power. We know that Glumstone is a literal mountain. So defeating Glumstone is like fighting a mountain. We know that the devil is stronger than that. Okay, how much stronger? Can he vaporize a mountain range or a country or a planet or a universe? Who the fuck knows? It's not clear how strong the devil is. All we know is that he's above the mountain that is Glumstone. And that's what I said. I said in the video that Cuphead is stronger than a mountain, whatever the fuck that means. But the one who waits was the size of a mountain range. I have no evidence that tells me that the devil is so far beyond Glumstone that he reaches that of the one who waits. I don't know. There isn't enough evidence. The devil doesn't have any clear feats. I mean, shit, all of his powers and abilities that we see on screen are all just physical attacks. And the only power we see that's not is the fact that he could steal souls, which he can only do if you sign a contract. Just those two factors alone tells me the devil is probably nowhere near as strong as the one who waits or the lamb. And just giving the argument that, well, he's the devil, so he should beat these people, that doesn't mean anything. Different devils from different universes have different power levels. You can have a devil that can destroy a multiverse, you can have a devil that can destroy a building, and not much more. Devil is kind of like God. It's just a title or a name. It's not tied to any particular level of power. That devil character still has to show what power he has. And if he doesn't, he's not getting credit for having that power. And don't worry, we're gonna get more into this when we get to Hollow Knight. Like, right now. Okay, we're here. This is the one, everybody. This is the one that everybody was arguing against. Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight must have like the most fans, or someone just took my video and like posted it in a Hollow Knight thread. Because no joke, more than half of my comments were about Hollow Knight specifically. Like, in all the ways I fucked up the Hollow Knight lore. So there were two arguments brought up that you guys were absolutely right on, and I was super wrong. I hadn't played the game in a while, and I did quite a bit of research before making the video, but clearly not enough. Totally forgot about you fighting your siblings, and when you kill your siblings, they come right back. So they do have some form of resurrection. If not resurrection, they're just not capable of killing each other physically. I'm not really sure which one it is, but it's definitely one of them. So the fact that I said that he can't resurrect, I could have been wrong there. But I was definitely wrong when I said that he would be able to just hit him with a sword and kill him that way, because clearly not the case. The different knights are not capable of killing each other through just physical attacks. Fine, fair enough. Second point I was wrong on, I said the knight could not kill the Absolute Radiance. That at the end of the game, he seals him, but doesn't actually kill him. That's not true. There are two endings where he does kill him. Specifically, when he turns into the Shade Lord, he is capable of killing the Absolute Radiance. Again, totally my fault. All right, fine, fair enough. That's where I'm wrong. Now this is the part where I'm going to annoy people. That doesn't actually change my arguments. I still said in the video that I thought it was unlikely that the lamb was going to kill the knight with physical attacks. I said that in a physical confrontation, they would essentially just fight forever until one of them used a hacks that the other one couldn't resist against. And I came to the conclusion that the lamb would win because he would use his transmogrification spell in order to turn the knight into a little fucking critter bug thing, which would straight up avoid even using any physical attacks. That point on my end doesn't really change. Even if we say the knight and the lamb are just going to keep fighting each other forever, killing each other and coming back to life, trying to seal each other and then escaping the seals and doing all that different kind of stuff, it's only a matter of time before the lamb tries to transmog the knight. And the moment he tries that power, he will win. The knight has no power that can affect the lamb, and the lamb has one power that can affect the knight. And when he uses it, the knight's done. He can't fight back. There were a few comments saying that the transmog spell wouldn't work because the knight is just a shade. He's just like a shadow, and you can't transmog a shadow. But my argument would be, no, he's not a shadow. We can see in the game that he can physically touch people, and people can physically touch him. That's enough for me to believe that he can be hit by the transmog spell. And if you're saying, well, oh, well, he's not like a genetic creature, you can't alter his biology to turn him. Who said that this was like a mutation? I'm not gene splicing. It's using dark magic to turn one being into a totally different being. There's no evidence whatsoever that this cannot be used on any kind of being. Again, whoever it is who is defending the knight would have to bring up some sort of proof that because the knight is a shade, he cannot be affected by transmog. But because that power does not exist in the knight's world, there's no evidence that he can defend against it. Now, someone did mention that in Hollow Knight, there's an infection that spreads across the land, and it does change people, and the knight can resist it. But again, an infection is biological change, and the knight is not biological. He's physical, but he's not biological. And the lamb's transmog is just dark magic that is unleashed upon a being. There's no evidence that a dark magical attack that alters a being into a different being is limited only using against biological entities. That is a pretty massive assumption to make. I see this a lot in debates where people, instead of trying to prove that their character is strong enough enough to overcome a certain attack, like with their own resistance, they try to just find little weird like holes in the other story. Be like, oh, well, you only use this gun against humans, so how do we know this gun works against deers? Like, that's fucking stupid. If you see a gun work against one entity, you would have to assume that it works against all of them unless proven otherwise. You don't just start making up random resistances for random creatures based on what exists and doesn't exist in other franchises. Come on now. I don't know y'all are pulling that one out your ass. All right, another thing that people kept saying was that I forgot to talk about the Shade Lord. I saw so many comments saying, well, if only he would have used the Shade Lord, then the knight would have won. Oh, he completely forgot about the Shade Lord. Oh, must not have played the DLC, doesn't know anything about the Shade Lord. No, bullshit, that's not true. Well, I didn't say the name Shade Lord, which admittedly I should have. I did go into great detail about how the knight destroyed all of Godhome. Godhome was destroyed by the Shade Lord version of the knight, so obviously I was aware of the Shade Lord. I forgot that the Shade Lord killed the Absolute Radiance. Fair enough. I did not forget about the Shade Lord as a whole. Then people were wanking the shit out of his feet, saying that Godhome is the size of a universe, and there's a whole sun within God. No, there isn't. I gave Godhome City because we don't know how big it is, but based on what you can see on the horizon, you could definitely argue that it's about city size. But I'm not giving it country or planet or universe. There's no evidence of that. And there isn't a sun in Godhome. Stop exaggerating. For one, there's only one sun. It exists in our universe. It's the name of a specific star. Godhome has a giant fireball in the sky that looks like a star, but is then revealed to be the Absolute Radiance just wrapped up in a little fireball. It's not a star. There's no evidence that it's all the way up in space and it's that big. Once the Absolute Radiance reveals itself, it's only like 8 feet tall. And once Radiance stops being that giant fireball in the sky, the whole of Godhome is still lit up. So obviously, he wasn't the one who was lighting it up being up there. Now, once Radiance is killed, the light of Godhome does go away. So obviously, the light was coming from him in some capacity. It's like his existence was making the existence of light possible, which that's pretty cool. But that doesn't mean that he was a giant fireball so big that he lit up all of Godhome. Because when he wasn't that, he was still lighting up Godhome. He was just only like 8 feet tall. He was still lighting it all up. So it wasn't a size thing. And the whole idea people have where the Shade Lord would just solo the entire island of Cult of the Lamb is not true. The Shade Lord doesn't have any more powers than the Knight does. He's more powerful than the Knight, like he's all of his powers to a more powerful degree, but he doesn't have any more powers. He has the same level of hacks, the same level of everything else that the regular Knight has. But when I said a fight between the Lamb and the Knight just has all of their hacks counteracting each other, that would also go for the Shade Lord. The Shade Lord would also be able to be transmogged, since the Shade Lord also does not have a resistance to it. But the Lamb has a resistance to everything the Shade Lord can do. And just because the Shade Lord killed Absolute Radiance does not mean he can kill the Lamb. Absolute Radiance does not show that it can keep coming back from the dead infinitely. It is not shown to be a death god that has power over death. Even if the Shade Lord were to kill the Lamb, which is questionable if that's even possible, the Lamb would keep coming back. And it's just a matter of time before the Lamb uses his transmog move, which the Shade Lord has no defense against. I said all this in the main video, but a lot of comments were acting like I just completely forgot about the Shade Lord. I didn't. I forgot about one thing the Shade Lord did. That entire video is talking about the Shade Lord. Just, admittedly not calling him the Shade Lord, which, my bad. Oh, also, almost forgot. A lot of arguments, like a ton of arguments, were saying that because Hollow Knight has gods, they should have all the same resistances and powers that the gods from Cult of the Lamb have. So like anything that the bishops resist or that the Lamb resists, the gods of Hollow Knight should resist because they're both gods and they share the title. No, the same point I made for the devil in Cuphead applies here. These are different gods from different universes. They have different abilities and powers. Just because the gods from Cult of the Lamb resist all this crazy shit does not mean the gods from Hollow Knight do. The gods from Hollow Knight have to have their own feats that they show in their game. They don't just get the powers of all other gods from all other universes. This is what we call argumentative piggybacking, guys. Don't do that. All right, last one. We're almost there, guys. Just one more. Oh god, I'm losing my voice. Okay, Issac, Binding of Issac. There were some arguments here. Some of them were ridiculous. Like two arguments I saw were about eating pills. So there's a pill in the game that you eat the pill, it can up your speed and it can up your damage. And there's no limit to how many of these pills you can eat, and each one ups it by a small percentage. And if Issac really wanted to, he could just eat as many of these pills as he wants, gets unlimited power to the point that he surpasses everyone, and then just go one-shot everyone on the island. This is fucking ridiculous. First off, Issac is one of the slowest characters on the island. In order to get his speed to the same point that he's going as fast as the lamb and the higher tiers of the island, he'd have to eat like, I don't know, 100,000 fucking pills. That's ridiculous. He's never gonna do that. He never does that in his own game. So why would he do that here? How would he even carry that many pills? This argument comes from someone who is trying to take game mechanics and sort of make the game mechanics lore. And also, the lamb could do the exact same thing. The golden fleece is an item that exists in Cult of the Lamb where every time he kills someone, he gets a boost in power. I think it's like 5 or 10%. I think it might be 10%. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I played. But that percentage increases limitlessly as high as you want it. At one point, I got it all the way up to like 850% or some shit like that, and I just one-shot a boss, like just in one hit. That's how I'm pretty sure I got the trophy for defeating Calamar without getting hit by using the golden fleece and having my percentage at like several 100%. So for all the pills that Issac eats, the lamb could just like kill a couple of people, get his percentage strength up, and his percentage increases are way bigger than the lamb's, and Issac will just never catch up to him. Again, this is a stupid argument. Come on, guys. The next argument I heard for Issac was Eraser, which is a move where he can throw an eraser at somebody and they get erased from existence. Not only do they get erased from existence, but every enemy of that type gets erased from existence across the whole dungeon run. And while I do think this would be useful on cultists, because like he could throw it at a cultist and then just erase all the cultists of that same type throughout a certain area, because obviously it's not all of them because it only works in individual dungeons in the game. But yeah, he can do that, but the eraser doesn't work on everyone. It doesn't work on any enemy types that are immune to physical damage, like the eternal flies, for instance, and it doesn't work on bosses. It just damages them. So there's no reason to believe that the eraser would be able to be used on the stronger beings. I don't think it'll work on the bosses. I don't think it'll work on the gods, and I don't think it'll work on the lamb. Because remember, the lamb has invulnerability and invincibility. And if the eraser doesn't negate that, which you could have abilities that negate it, but the eraser just isn't one of them, then it's not going to work. So yes, the eraser would help, but it would not be like an instant win for him across the whole island. So the last argument I heard is that Issac can't die. He'll just keep coming back again and again and again. And yeah, that's bullshit, because the end of the game has him die. He suffocates in a chest. That's the canon ending of the game. So we know he's capable of dying. And he's capable of dying without really having to do any crazy bullshit to him first. Like, you don't have to steal his soul or erase him from existence or any of that shit. You could just drown the bitch. Pretty normal means can kill him. He does have ways of like avoiding death when you're playing the game, but nothing that would just make him immune to all forms of death. That's not really what happens. The lamb, the bishops, and even a lot of the cultists would not have to try that hard to just try a bunch of different hacks to see which one will finally kill him. He's not actually immune to that many hexes. Oh, and another argument I heard was people were saying that Issac doesn't really have any of these powers and it's all just like a hallucination in his mind as he's suffocating in the chest. I looked this up everywhere, and no matter where I went, it's a fan theory. The developers of the game have never said that that's what it is. It's literally a fan theory, and every time it's brought up to the developer, he doesn't answer. He said that that's the canon ending, and he says he left the game largely up to interpretation, but he has never said that, yes, it's all just a hallucination. That's something that the fans came up with. It's a fan theory. So the people who were saying that the whole Issac part of the video was stupid because he doesn't actually have any of these powers and he's just hallucinating everything, that's not true. You're going off of a fan theory. So, you know, stop that. We try to focus on canon shit here. Try to, being the operative word. And that's gonna be all from me. We got through it, but guys, we did it. We're through the whole thing. And this initial video is doing supremely well, more so than most of my videos. So you can pretty much goddamn guarantee I'm gonna make a part 2. So, you know, be prepared for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Also, if I'm gonna make this an ongoing series, I don't want to just keep sending them to the lands of the old faith from Cult of the Lamb. I like to send them to a bunch of different places, you know? I could do, would these shooter characters survive the Doom universe, right? Or whatever, you know, just whatever it is. Just anything that I could think of. So go down below and like give me some ideas. Like, what are some cool universes you guys would like to see a bunch of characters get tossed into and try to survive? And I'll talk about it and see how well they'll do, you know? So yeah, comment that shit down below. And that's it. I'm gonna end the video right now. Right here, right now. Video's over. So yeah, y'all be safe out there, you hear?